A grippy, twisty serial killer thriller. Say that 5 times fast. Hello y'all, welcome back to Case Can Probably Read. My name is Casey and I can probably read. It's an oldie but a goodie as far as intros go. The other day I was going through my Kindle library and I discovered that there are several titles that I either only vaguely remember adding to my library or I don't remember adding them at all. I have no idea what they are. I gathered all those titles together and put them into a collection, and my utter confusion is reflected in the title of that collection. So today what I am going to do is I am going to take you through this collection title by title. I am going to try and guess what that book is about based on the cover and the title, and we're going to start with the newest, work our way back to the oldest, and see how convoluted it gets. Now, I feel like people maybe typically make videos like this, if people make videos like this at all, when they're trying to clean things out or get rid of old titles that they know they're never going to read, or just trying to make better choices as far as reading and not gather a bunch of books that are just going to sit by the wayside. That is not what this is. This is not me making better choices. What this is me inviting you into the metaphorical hoarder home that is my Kindle library so that I can show you all 17 of the toy xylophones that I bought on sale. So while you're here, it's important that you know that no, I do not want an intervention. And yes, I need all 17 xylophones. Well, without further ado, let's get to it. The newest book that I have in my What Is This collection is The Astronaut and the Star by Jen Comfort. It says that I acquired this on February 3rd of 2022. So actually, I do kind of remember a little bit about this one. I think it's supposed to be a contemporary romance. And I think it's about an astronaut and an actor who is studying how to be an astronaut for a role. And so they end up meeting and sparks fly. I'm pretty sure I got this one as a Kindle, as a Amazon Prime first reads pick. Okay, let's see what this one's actually about. Astronaut Reggie Hayes wants to be the first woman on the moon. It's all she's ever dreamed of. But after a PR disaster, Reggie is off the list for a lunar mission. To rehabilitate her reputation with NASA, she agrees to a different kind of assignment. Astronaut training with a Hollywood action hero. Nailed it! John Leo is a charmer with credits that include an underperforming sitcom and a campy action flick called Space Dude. His upcoming role in a prestigious movie could prove he's a star. Okay, although Reggie and John are polar opposites, their mutual attraction is undeniable, and it only takes a few weeks in close quarters for them to give into his magnet. Okay, so yes, that is what it was about. Called it. Okay, the next book in the collection is Divine Lola, a true story of scandal and celebrity by Cristina Morato. And it says that I added this to my library on August 9th, 2021. I'm pretty sure this was also an Amazon first reads. I think that's what most of these are. I'm pretty sure this is a biography of some sort, but I do not know about who. Let's see. Divine Lola. See, an enthralling biography about one of the most intriguing women of the Victorian age, the first self-invented international social celebrity. Lola Montez was one of the most celebrated and notorious women of the 19th century, a raven-haired Andalusian who performed her scandalous spider dance in the greatest performance halls across Europe. She dazzled and beguiled all who met her with her astonishing beauty, sexuality, and shocking disregard for propriety, but Lola was an imposter, a self-invention. Born Eliza Gilbert, the beautiful Irish wild child escaped a stifling marriage and reimagined herself as Lola, the civilian flamenco dancer and noblewoman, choosing a life of adventure, fame, sex, and scandal rather than submitting to the strictures of her era. Okay, so yeah, I was kind of right, but I honestly didn't remember hardly anything about this book, so that sounds really good. I need to read that. Okay, the next title in my collection is Only the Pretty Lies by Rebekah Crane. It says I acquired this title on April 2nd, 2021. I want to say this one is young adult fiction, and it's one of those, like, somebody moves to a new town, I want to say, and they make new friends. Like, they meet a boy, or the boy meets a girl, and they start to develop a relationship, maybe, and there's, like, lots of secrets to uncover in the town. Like, it's one of those, like, where there's just a lot of dark stuff hidden that the newcomer doesn't know about, maybe. So I'm not sure if it's a romance or if it's a thriller. That's really all I remember about it. Let's see. A young love story about breaking painful legacies by the author of The Upside of Falling Down. Convention doesn't carry much weight in Alder Creek. It doesn't in Morris Westmore's family either. Daughter of a massage therapist and a pothead artist, inheritor of her grandmother's vinyl collection, and blissfully entering her senior year in high school, Morris never wants to leave her progressive hometown. Why should she? Everything changes when Jameson Rush moves in next door. Jameson was Morris's first crush, and their last goodbye still stings, but Jameson stirs more than bittersweet memories. One of the few black students in Alder Creek, Jameson sees Morris's idyllic town through different eyes. He encourages Morris to take a closer look too. When Jameson discovers a racist mural at Alder Creek High, Morris's worldview is turned upside down. Okay, so I missed a lot of elements about that. Kind of right, but kind of not. So that is interesting. Okay, next book that I've got here is A Splendid Ruin by Megan Chance. The only things I remember about this, I think it's supposed to be comparable to Mexican Gothic, which I also have not read. And I think it's set in Mexico among, like, the elite class in... It's like a period piece, so it's set back some in maybe like the early 1900s or the 1800s or something like that. And what else do I remember about this? I think it's a thriller. Let's find out. A mesmerizing novel of dark family secrets and a young woman's rise and revenge set against the backdrop of the devastating 1906 San Francisco earthquake. Very wrong on the setting. The eve of destruction. After her mother's death, penniless May Kimball lives a lonely life until an aunt she didn't know existed summons her to San Francisco. There she's welcomed into the wealthy Sullivan family and their social circle. Initially overwhelmed by the opulence of her new life, May soon senses that dark mysteries lurk in the shadows of the Sullivan mansion. Her glamorous cousin often disappears in the night, her aunt wanders about in a laudanum fog, and a maid keeps hinting that May is in danger. Trapped by betrayal, madness, and murder, May stands to lose everything, including her freedom, at the hands of those she trusts most. Good night. I was very wrong on that. Why did I think that this was... Maybe something else that month was comparable to that. This is not at all what I thought it was going to be. I mean, the cover looks cool, so maybe if I ever run out of things to read, which will probably never happen, I'll get to it. Next one is The Execution, which is part of the Choctaw Tribune historical fiction series, the book one by Sarah Elisabeth Sawyer. It says, I acquired this in October of 2020. I'm pretty sure this is set in like the early 1900s, or at least the first half of that century. And it's set in Oklahoma, which is why I'm pretty sure I picked it up. I think it has to do with some kind of crime thing. I don't know if it's based on actual events or if it's fiction, but you should know that here, like in my part of Oklahoma in the early 1900s, like it was pretty lawless. We were pretty messed up people back in the day. 1892, Indian Territory. Okay, so yeah, that would have been before statehood. A war brews in the Choctaw Nation as two political parties grapple between old tradition and evolving issues, with 18-year-old Choctaw Ruth Ann Teller caught in the middle. In a small but booming pre-statehood town, Ruth Ann's mixed-blood family owns a controversial newspaper, the Choctaw Tribune, infamous for its dedication to unbiased truth. When this quest leads Ruth Ann and her brother to the farm of a condemned murderer, it also brings them to head-on clashes with leading townsmen who want their reports about what really happened silenced no matter what. This is probably fiction. It does reflect a lot of the events that were happening around the turn of the century going into the early 1900s here in Oklahoma, kind of reflective of some of the things that were going on right then. I think I probably will read this soon. Okay, next one I've got is Scarlet Odyssey by C.T. Rwizi. It says I acquired this in June of 2020, and literally the only thing I know about this book is that it is a science fiction book. Man, I hope I'm right about it. That would be really embarrassing if that's the only thing I know about it and then that thing was wrong. Let's find out. Magic is women's work. War is men's. But in the coming battle, none of that will matter. Men do not become mystics, they become warriors. But 18-year-old Salo has never been good at conforming to his tribe's expectations. For as long as he can remember, he has loved books and magic in a culture where such things are considered unmanly. Despite it being sacrilege, Salo has worked on a magical device in secret that will awaken his latent magical powers, and when his village is attacked by a cruel enchantress, Salo knows that it's time to take action. That sounds pretty cool. That is not really science fiction. It sounds more like a fantasy. I'm sad that I haven't read this yet. Okay, next one is The Killing Fog, which it says is the first in the Grave Kingdom series, I guess, by Jeff Wheeler. It says I got this in February of 2020. I've been wrong about so many of these so far. I want to say that this is kind of based in an East Asian inspired world. I really hate saying that because I'll probably be wrong. I think it's a fantasy. Let's see. Oh, survivor of a combat school, the orphan Bing Mei belongs to a band of mercenaries employed by a local ruler. Now, the nobleman and collector of rare artifacts has entrusted Bing Mei and the skilled team with a treacherous assignment. Brave the wilderness's dangers to retrieve the treasures of a lost palace buried in a glacier valley. But upsetting its tombs has a price. EZEKIEL, Emperor of the Grave Kingdom, Ruler of Darkness, Dragon of Night, that is a lot of extra names, has long been entombed. Now Bing Mei has unwittingly awakened him and is answerable to a legendary prophecy. Destroying the Dark Lord before he claims the kingdoms of the living is her inherited mission. Killing Bing Mei before she fulfills it is EZEKIEL's. It sounds good in theory, but I think that this is one that if I actually got into it, that would be hard for me to get through. It does sound really interesting, but I don't know how soon I will get to this book. Next book in my collection is The Last Dance by Martin L. Shoemaker. It says that this is the Near Earth Mysteries Book 1. I'm almost positive that this one is science fiction. There's like a picture of a planet, like probably at the heart of a mystery unfolding in space. Son of a bitch. The opposing forces make a treacherous journey between Earth and Mars. In space, mutiny means death. That's why Inspector General Park Yi-rim is taking her investigation so seriously. The alleged mutineer is Captain Nicolas Ames, whose command of the massive Earth-Mars vessel Aldrin has come under fire. The Bath System Initiative says he disobeyed orders, but his crew says he's in the right. As the investigation unfolds, Park finds herself in the thrall of powerful interests, each pushing and pulling her in a fiery cosmic dance. So called that, looks like it is a science fiction and a mystery novel. So that's kind of interesting. That actually might be something fun to read. Okay, next one is Along the Broken Bay by Flora J. Solomon. I want to say this is historical fiction, and I want to say it is also about some war. I can't remember which one. It says I acquired this in June of 2019. War has erupted in the Pacific, spelling danger for Gina Capelli Thorpe, an American expat living in Manila. When the Japanese invade and her husband goes missing, Gina flees with her daughter to the Zambales Mountains to avoid capture or worse. Desperate for money, medicine, and guns, the resistance recruits Gina, to join their underground army and smuggles her back to Manila. There she forges a new identity and opens a nightclub where seductive beauties sing, dance, and tease secrets out of high-ranking Japanese officials, while the wildly successful club and its enemy patrons help fund the resistance. That took a turn. I didn't think that that's where that was going to go with that. I am not big on like historical fiction, like especially wartime historical fiction, especially if it doesn't have like a speculative element to it. But this does look good. I thought it was just going to be about her fleeing from devastation, not about her joining this resistance. So that's kind of cool. Okay, the next one we've got here is Blood for Blood by Victoria Selman. It says it's Zeba Mackenzie book 1, so I guess it's part of a series. And it says I acquired this in January of 2019. I want to say this is about some assassin, an assassin of some sort, or a hit person, a hitman. For fans of a stylish, fast-paced thriller. Okay, good. It is a thriller. A grippy, twisty serial killer thriller. Say that 5 times fast. Zeba Mackenzie profiles killers. Now one is profiling her. Rush hour London. A packed commuter train is torn apart in a collision. Picking through the carnage, ex-special forces profiler Zeba Mackenzie helps a dying woman who passes on a cryptic message. He did it. You have to tell someone. Okay. When a corpse is found bearing the gruesome signature of a serial killer dormant for 25 years, Zeba is pulled into the hunt for the perpetrator. As the body count rises, it becomes clear he's on a new spree. But what's brought the London lacerator back after such a long hiatus? And does his sudden return have anything to do with the woman on the train? Well, that's interesting. I did want to try and read more thriller books and more horror books this year. So that actually might be good to slip into my reading lineup because, I already have it. Okay, next one is The Rule of One by Ashley Saunders and Leslie Saunders. I acquired this in September of 2018. I just remember that this one, I think, is by twin sisters. The authors are twin sisters. I think it's like a dystopian novel. It might be young adult as well. I want to say maybe there's a queen in it. Maybe it's like queens trying to be queen and kill all the other queens. Kind of a Three Dark Crowns kind of thing, maybe. Let's find out. In their world, telling the truth has become the most dangerous crime of all. In the near future United States, a one-child policy is ruthlessly enforced. Everyone follows the rule of one. But Ava Goodwin, daughter of the head of the Texas Family Planning Division, has a secret. One her mother died to keep and her father's helped to hide for her entire life. She has an identical twin sister, Mira. For 18 years, Ava and Mira have lived as one, trading places day after day, maintaining an interchangeable existence down to the most telling detail. But when their charade is exposed, their worst nightmare begins. Now they must leave behind the father they love and fight for their lives. So, this is like Whatever Happened to Monday, like minus 5 girls. Interesting. Next one is Bandwidth by Eliot Peper. It says I got this one in April of 2018, and it is an analog novel, book 1. This, I want to say, is also... it's sci-fi maybe, or is it also dystopian? I want to say it has dystopian elements to it, and it has something to do with like internet use or social media, like people using it too much and it becoming an issue maybe? A rising star at a preeminent political lobbying firm, Dag Calhoun represents the world's most powerful technology and energy executives, but when a close brush with death reveals that the influence he wields makes him a target, impossible cracks appear in his perfect, richly appointed life. Like everyone else, Doug relies on his digital feed for everything, a feed that is as personal as it is pervasive and may not be as private as it seems. As he struggles to make sense of the dark forces closing in on him, he discovers that activists are hijacking the feed to manipulate markets and governments. Going public would destroy everything he's worked so hard to build, but it's not just Dag's life on the line. A shadow war is coming. one that will secure humanity's future or doom the planet to climate catastrophe. Ultimately, Dag must decide the price he's willing to pay to change the world. This idea maybe seems slightly less novel. Interesting though, possibly. I don't know. I should have read this one when it first came out. Okay, next one is The Night of the Moths by Riccardo Bruni. I want to say that this is a thriller, possibly, or maybe a murder mystery. It's been so long since I have even thought of this book. I want to say this one takes place over years. Like there's a crime or a tragedy that happens, and then like several years later, something pops back up that makes everybody in the book have to reconfront that. He's finally letting go of the memory. He's finally letting go of the memory of his murdered girlfriend. Then he sees her texts. Alice was a hopeful young graduate student when, on a beautiful August night, her body was found in the woods. She'll always remember the night she was murdered, and she still suffers the grief and rage that destroyed her family. But what Alice regrets most is the last fight she had with her boyfriend Enrico and the fact that she never had the chance to tell him something that would have changed everything. A decade later, called it, Enrico has returned to the provincial town where Alice lived and died to sell his family home. All he wants is to forget. But then, among the things he left behind, he finds an old cell phone and unread texts sent from Alice's phone. Now her terrible secrets are about to swallow up everyone she knew, loved, and trusted. For Enrico, discovering them is his only chance to put his lost love and the demons of his past to rest. So I guess, is Alice still sentient in this, even though she's dead? What would you call that? Just a supernatural element? Okay. Honestly, this does not sound like a book that I would typically read, and it doesn't really sound like something that interests me. So I've got it. We'll see if I ever read it. Maybe I'll get into this eventually. But, I mean, interesting idea. Okay, next one is The Naturalist by Andrew Mayne. I acquired this one in September of 2017. I actually think that maybe I cracked this one open possibly a long time ago. It is, I think it's a serial killer novel, like thriller. Serial killer thriller, serial killer thriller, serial killer thriller. And I think that the main character is like a scientist that gets framed for it, possibly, and has to prove that he's innocent by way of his science. Professor Theo Cray is trained to see patterns where others see chaos. So when mutilated bodies found deep in the Montana woods leave the cops searching blindly for clues, Theo sees something they missed, something unnatural, something only he can stop. As a computational biologist, Theo is more familiar with digital code and microbes than the dark arts of forensic sleuthing. But a field trip to Montana suddenly lands him in the middle of an investigation into the bloody killing of one of his former students. As more details and bodies come to light, the local cops determine that the killer is either a grizzly gone rogue or Theo himself. It feels so good to be right. Racing to stay one step ahead of the police, Theo must use his scientific acumen to uncover the killer. Will he be able to become as cunning as the predator he hunts before he becomes its prey? All right, that's enough. That's interesting. I might read that one. Next one is Song of Edmond by Adam Burch. It was acquired in August of 2017. And it says it is The Fractured Worlds, Book 1, so I'm assuming part of a series. Oh, buddy. I think this is science fiction. I don't think it's fantasy. I think it's science fiction. Oh, but it says Song of Edmond. That's like something that is more of a fantasy title. I think it starts with a young boy, and there's something about like interplanetary travel. I want to say maybe something about suns and their rotations. I don't know if it's like an epic or like a thriller or just an adventure. Oh boy, let's find out. A young man must choose between violence and peace in a distant world, divided between those who thrive in endless sunlight and those who survive in eternal darkness. Am I going to be right about this? The isolated planet of Tau is a house divided. The peaceful Daysiders live in harmony while the pale Nightsiders pursue power and racial purity through the violent ritual of the combat. Edmund Leontes, the gentle son of a ruthless warrior noble and a proud Daysider, embodies Tau's split nature. The product of diametrically opposed races, Edmond hopes to live a quiet life pursuing the magic of his mother's people, but his Nightsider father cruelly forces him to continue in his bloody footsteps to ensure his legacy. His choice to embrace the light or surrender to the darkness will shape his own fate and that of his divided world. I think it sounds like a science fiction pick. That's interesting. We're almost done. All right, this is, I guess, my 16th book in this collection. It is Wives of War by Soraya M. Lane. It was acquired in June of 2017. And I am guessing it is about war and about some wives. From this, I'm guessing we're talking about World War II, just from the fashion of the woman on the cover. I'm not great. London, 1944. Two young nurses meet at a train station with a common purpose: to join the war effort. Scarlet longs for the chance to find her missing fiancé, Thomas, and to prove to her family and to herself that she's stronger than everybody thinks. Nursing is in Ellie's blood, but her humble background is vastly different from Scarlet's privileged upbringing. Though Ellie puts on a brave face, she's just as nervous as Scarlet about what awaits them in France. In Normandy, the two friends soon encounter the seemingly unflappable Lucy, pushed to their limits by the brutality of a world at war. Scarlet, Ellie, and Lucy will need to rely on each other and the power of their friendship to survive. I'm sure this is an interesting book. It's just, like I said, it's historical fiction, and it's like World War II, which is just really not my jam. I don't know why that just doesn't call to me. For some reason, it just puts me off a little bit. I don't know why. Okay, the last one in my What Is This collection was added in April of 2016. This seems like a weird one to end on, but it's called simply Be Reverent, EZEKIEL, Bowing Before Our Awesome God. And it is from the B series commentary. So this is probably some kind of biblical commentary that I got back in the day. I'm wanting to say that this probably came from like a ministry group. It was like required reading or suggested reading. I'm assuming it's about Ezekiel in the Bible. The modern church has become a comfortable place as congregations focus on creating warm and welcoming environments, but have casual attitudes replaced reverence for the Lord. The prophet Ezekiel was called to remind God's people about his holy and glorious nature, and that message remains as relevant today as it was when it was first delivered. This study examines Ezekiel's mission to describe the indescribable, a God beyond imagining, a king worthy of our reverence. This is not really groundbreaking. That's kind of something that a lot of people say in a lot of books and in a lot of sermons. The idea that we're getting comfortable in our churches. And that is all I've got for you today. I do not have any idea if this is good content, but it is definitely content. If you have read any of these books and you want to weigh in on its inherent goodness or badness, please let me know. If you haven't read them, but any one of these looks good to you, go ahead and let me know about that too. If my brand of awkward appeals to you, please feel free to like this video, subscribe to my channel, or follow me on social media, which I will list below. And until next time, I don't know, here's a friendly reminder to go clean out your Kindle library. Bye!